I love Naples. I love Collier County. And over the course of my many years here, I've had the incredible experience to understand what makes us the best place in America to live. And let me tell you, it's not just our beaches. Far from it, actually. It's our people, and it's our partnerships. And none of it's happened by accident. I've seen it time and time again. The more people learn about what's happening in our community, the more they come to the realization, this is not happening where I come from. Collier is special. Collier is unique. That's why I'm bringing you Community Matters. Think of this as your Collier County 101. I'm your guide, introducing you to the people and the resources that I think that you should know through short, real conversations so that you feel more empowered and ready to engage in ways that will positively impact your life, your family, your careers, and this beautiful place that we get to call home. Because community matters. Hello and welcome to Community Matters. I'm Amanda Pearson. Today it's my honor to introduce our Collier County Manager, Amy Patterson. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here today. I'd love to share just a little bit of information to help our audience get to know you a little bit better. So Amy's dedicated herself to public service in Collier County for more than 2 decades. She served as Deputy County Manager since May of 21 and was named Acting County Manager a year later. And in June of 22 was unanimously selected as County Manager. So I can't believe it's already been 5+ years.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Time flies. Born and raised in Naples, Amy began her career in Collier County government in the Growth Management Department. She worked diligently and gained valuable experience as she continued to move up the ranks. And as Collier Manager, Amy oversees a net adopted budget of $2.2 billion and over 2,200 employees. It's a lot of money. That's a big business. She holds a bachelor's degree in business management, good thing, belongs to several professional organizations, and is a frequent guest lecturer throughout the community, the state, and around the country. Amy's focused on managing county operations with maximum efficiency, transparency, and accountability, and she is the first woman to serve as Collier County Manager. Wow, that's a lot. So I wanted to begin with Collier County Government 101, which, we all would like to think, like everybody knows this, right? Can you share a little bit, if you were to describe how Collier County government functions, how it's managed, how it's led, and perhaps what makes it different from our municipalities, which I think not everyone always knows as well?
Oh, sure, absolutely. So we do have 3 municipalities in Collier County: Everglades City, City of Marco Island, City of Naples, and we'll get to that in a second. The county then has 5 elected county commissioners who oversee everything from the animal shelter to water and sewer. It's a big business. There are things we don't do, though. The sheriff is a separately elected constitutional officer. We also have a clerk of courts, property appraiser, supervisor of elections, and tax collector, all separately elected. And so while we interact with the constitutional officers, the Board of County Commissioners has some budget oversight, but other than that, those are separate offices. So that makes it kind of interesting. I think when people think government, they just think one pot. That's right. Sometimes even fire districts, which are separate, and also the school district get thrown in the pot too. Mosquito control. So there's a lot of little elected areas that have they're autonomous. They have their own authority. So we get a lot of questions that actually belong to others and try to steer people to where they need to go. But if you're asking questions about things being built, roads, big one, water, sewer, stormwater, animal shelter, like I said, libraries, museums, parks, that's all the county. We take care of those things. And it does make us a little bit different than the cities. While they have authority within their municipal boundaries, things like the courts and the jails, those are provided by the county and the constitutional officers for the entire county. So it does take a little navigation to figure out where you need to go. And there's definite collaboration and overlap between the cities, but there are lines of authority that separate us too.
Yeah. So you spoke of the Collier County Commissioners, and I don't believe that I've ever addressed this in any of my past episodes. How does the county manager's office and the 5 commissioners, how does that relationship work?
So I'm an employee of the 5 commissioners, a contract employee, and they also have the county attorney as a contract employee, and they have the hearing examiner. So those are their contract employees, or the special magistrate, I'm sorry. So we work for them, and then everybody else works for us. And that's done deliberately so that they have people that are manning, the day-to-day business while they are the policy leaders. They are the ones that ultimately make the decisions. They make the final decisions on land use. They make the final decisions on budget, on infrastructure, but all of that work is done at the staff level and then brought up through the decision-making process.
Through commission meetings.
That's right. And also through our various advisory boards, sometimes ahead of commission meetings. We do have required committees as well as ones that the board has chosen. So we have an affordable housing, planning commission, tourist development. Those are statutorily required. But we have other ones, development services advisory committee, the Parks and Rec advisory board, and I could go on and on. There's a whole bunch of them.
Which is, we'll get to that towards the end of this conversation. How about, when it comes to we have an amazing county, right? And I think one of the things that I always talk about is I believe that we all tend to take our community a little bit for granted because things do run pretty smoothly. Yeah. Congratulations. People will go to the DMV and have a wonderful experience. There's just so much that's going right, but there are also opportunities, right? So how would you describe what the county is working on as some of its top priorities?
So a big one is looking at all of our assets. We have over 5 million square feet of vertical space that the county owns and that we are responsible for maintaining. And we need to get our arms around what it's going to take to do various rehabilitations. What's even our painting cycles, what are the life of our roofs and air conditionings. It's things that, people do for their homes, but we also need to do for all of the buildings that we take care of. We built a lot in the mid-2000s that's now getting to that age where it needs some help. It may need new air conditioning or other things. And I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to. We also need to figure out where everybody is sitting. So in 5 million square feet of space, we have a lot of folks that are sitting in space, and we don't have a really good handle on that. So when we say, well, this group might need space, we need to evaluate all the space we have and how it's being utilized so that we know what we're doing and kind of what we actually really need. It seems like we went out and we did, and there's reasons why, but we have a lot of community space, but it doesn't get used all day, every day. So when we think about what we might do in the future, we want to get an inventory of what we have so that we can better utilize the space. Also concentrating on how we may have services together. Do we need the library to have a community space and then have the parks have a community space? Could they have a shared community space? As we move east, where really the growth is with the towns and villages, we're really rethinking what some of this governmental space is going to look like. So that's a big priority that we're working on. And the board would like to understand the cost of this over time, as well as just on a year-to-year basis. It's a big number. Another thing, a big deal is stormwater. So kind of still fitting into that category of things we need to take care of. We all drive around and we see the landscaping, beautiful landscaping, nice buildings. We get the grass cut. You don't drive around unless you're weird like me and say, ooh, look at that stormwater. That looks like that needs some help. So trying to bring that to the public's view that we have a lot of aging infrastructure in the ground. Some of these pipes have been in the ground for 30 or 40 years. We want to look at what we're going to do to either reconstruct, rehabilitate, and kind of get that stormwater really functioning well. We were fortunate last year. It was a below average rainy season. That's turning out to be not so fortunate here in the dry season, but that's rainy season is when we really start to see the performance of the stormwater system and where we need to focus our efforts.
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to say I think everybody, if you just put yourself in rainy season and where those little floods tend to happen.
Yep.
Yeah. So as you were saying, was there anything?
Oh, no, no.
Great priorities. And I think what you were saying with for example, where are people going to sit, that kind of reminds me a little bit about your work to be efficient and transparent. So thank you for that. I feel like when I hear, people talking, they're often talking about traffic and housing, which I'm sure are your two favorite topics. So, what would you say, when people who might not know how all this works, how does traffic work? How do roads work? And how does housing work? And they're saying whoever they might be, they really need to do something about this. What are your thoughts on Collier County's role in both of those topics?
That's a good question. Never heard this one before.
Really? No, I'm kidding.
So let's start with traffic. So part of the trouble is that we have a seasonal spike. People come here, for the really nice months of the fall, winter, and maybe the early part of spring. So there's a lot of people here. They're visiting here. Maybe they live here part of the year. Well, we don't build our roads to that level. So there are times of the year when we experience congestion. And it's just simply kind of the way of life. But there are things that we can do, and there's things that we can't do. So we are on a pretty aggressive capital campaign right now. We have Vanderbilt Beach Road Extension under construction. There's a $150 million brand new road project out in Golden Gate Estates. But then we're working on several of the intersections here in Collier County. So we have the Diverging Diamond at Pine Ridge, which is going to really help move that traffic more efficiently. There's a study going on and work with FDOT to look at Immokalee Road and that the I-75 interchange. And Trinity Scott is our transportation services department head. She does, and the other infrastructure components as well, are looking every year at our infrastructure to prioritize projects. It's called the Annual Updated Inventory Report, and it's basically the snapshot in that year as well as the next 4 years of what we think we're going to be doing based on population and a number of other factors. So we're measuring traffic all of the time. Part of the problem is that we're constrained by the growth management plan to 6 lanes. So even if we wanted to, which would be pretty tough here in the urban area because you have businesses and all sorts of things along every road, we also aren't allowed to build these roads any wider. And I'm not sure anybody really would want that. So what we're doing is focusing on how we manage the traffic through the intersections and things like that. And so there are more things that can be done to help the intersections work more efficiently. But there's just not a lot that can be done when you have a town full of people and everybody wants to drive around at 8:30 in the morning. It just creates, a few hours every morning and a few hours every night of heavier traffic. Probably not like Atlanta traffic, but it's heavier traffic for sure. And it's frustrating for folks. I've been here a long time, so I remember when the town we always had a seasonal factor, but basically the day after Easter, the town just emptied out and you wouldn't, it would be really just back to a small town until sometimes after Thanksgiving or Christmas. But we're seeing more and more people here longer and longer. And that's a good thing for our community, but it does stress the roads a little bit during those times.
Before we get to housing, it's kind of like that saying, build churches for Easter.
Yes.
So I get that. I understand that. And I also think there's probably something to our growth. I mean, we have a growth management plan, if people did not realize that, and growth is happening east, right? So houses are going east, as are businesses and commerce, right? So, which is businesses, but so one would hope too that rather than going west for everything in the future, that people will have more of those opportunities to live, work, and play where they are in East Collier as well, to maybe balance some of that. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that'll be huge when we, Ave Maria has really taken off. And for, folks that have been watching for a while, at first there wasn't much, then there was a Publix and maybe there were some other things. Well, now there's a lot out there. And so the hope is as these other towns and villages develop, they bring with them requirements for a certain amount of commercial space and services and civic and all of those things that it'll do exactly as you describe, is people won't have to drive into town for everything that they need. Right now in Golden Gate Estates and, those areas kind of over by Ave, there's still not a lot of doctor's offices and the things that people need, and employment, which is huge. There are some places people are employed, like Arthrex, which is amazing. But the more employment that we have out that way, the more opportunities there are for people to travel differently versus this traditional trek from east to west.
Right. So housing, our favorite topic. There's a lot of players in housing, and Collier County government is one of them. And as it relates to growth management plan or special projects and things like that. So when they need to work on housing, what are your thoughts on all of that? What's happening?
Yeah. So I actually went to a groundbreaking yesterday for an affordable housing project out in Immokalee that is utilizing Live Local, which is exciting.
What's Live Local, in case people don't know?
So Live Local was some legislation, state legislation from a few years ago, actually homegrown legislation that helps to utilize properties differently. It eases some of the requirements for zoning actions and such under certain criteria, provided that the project provides a certain amount of affordable housing. So it's interesting to watch that evolve. But the other interesting thing we were chatting about yesterday was that during the mid-2000s, we really didn't see any multifamily rentals built. There was about a 10-plus year drought, not just of affordable housing, but of market rate rentals, apartments. So then we went through the recession. People lost their homes. There was nowhere for them to live because there were virtually no rentals. Those that we had, a lot of them converted actually to condos and were sold. So there was just a really strange situation where we didn't have the supply that we needed at all across the spectrum. We've gone through a massive period here of just growth of multifamily. I know it can be a little upsetting to people to see that because they feel like it's too much density, too much growth. I think it's really just equalizing the system, and it will reach equilibrium. But across that spectrum now, it's also brought in projects that are partially affordable, 100% affordable, market rate, luxury. So it's a product that runs a little bit for everybody. But we are seeing the public-private partnerships as well. So things like the Golden Gate Golf Course and Ecos, Ecos has a project where they're using Live Local, where developers have used the surtax to help them get the land, which helps buy down the cost of the projects. They've utilized tax credits, which we haven't seen in a really long time, another state level program. Impact fee deferrals. So there's a piece in it for kind of everybody. The state offers incentivization. We have local incentives. And then the developers bring forward that best deal that they can so that they can drive that cost. Ultimately, the cost of the unit to construct drives the ability for them to provide it to some of those lower income brackets.
Right. Well, I typically don't provide opinions as the question asker here, but I always wish that, a lot of us joke that people want affordable housing, but never next to them. And what we term that is NIMBYism, not in my backyard. So yes, that's great. Put it over there. Not my backyard, not in my district. Put it over there. And so I do hope that if nothing else, and housing will come up in many episodes, I'm sure, that people will understand the working professionals that absolutely need to have a place in this county. I just got a message today from someone who's moving their job from taking a job in Collier that she's been thriving in to work for the same position in Lee County. Mm-hmm. So it impacts, I hear people say, oh, there's not a lot of servers here. There's all these tables open, but where are the servers? Or whatever it is, finance professionals. My goodness, working professionals need a place to live in our community, where they can also vote in our community and live life in our community and serve our community, our many residents. So thank you for the work that you're doing there. What do you wish, if we had every resident listening today to this podcast, what do you wish that maybe more of them knew? Just, a top thing that you're like, I just wish people understood.
Yeah, well, let me touch the housing thing really quickly as actually sort of one of those priorities, and then maybe I have another one. The interesting thing about all of these projects, the ones that are 100% affordable, the ones that are mixed, these are very nice projects. And you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between an affordable project and a market rate. I think people are attached to the old stigmas of the inner city slums, and all the crime and that. That is not what we have going on here. And a lot of times these are people that are entering the market. They're, new teachers, they're first responders. And we want them to say, as you said, they want them to stay here. Maybe, they've grown up here. So pushing them out of the community doesn't seem like that's what's best for the community, but also it's really detaching from the idea that there's something wrong with affordable housing. I really feel like you could line 10 people up in a room, and I don't think you could sit there and say, oh, I think you live in affordable housing. I currently rent, so I don't know that, would you know that? No. I mean, you might think I own a home. I've been here forever, but I rent currently at an apartment complex. So I hope that this continues to get better as people see these products, the work these developers are putting into the products to make them just really nice communities. And that's what people deserve. So other than that, we always wish that people would participate more with things that they're passionate about, not just things they hate. You can passionately hate things too, but there are things people are interested in, whether it's museums or libraries or animals. You wish that more people wanted to be involved or knew that they were welcome to be involved, and even attending board meetings. It's hard because it's during the day, people are working, but there's night meetings, there's different ways that people can be involved in the community if they want to, and I wish that there were more. Some of the most important work we do is the budget and then the annual update and inventory report. It's exciting if we have 2 or 3 people show up to a meeting like that. And those budget meetings, when the final ones are at night, now I get it. If I worked all day, I don't know that I'd want to go and sit in a government meeting, but if I could have what I wanted, I would wish definitely for more public interaction in some of these important decisions that we're making so it doesn't seem like to people that we just woke up one day and built something somewhere, because there's years of planning that go into these things. And it would be nice to hear people's voices early.
So real quick to the housing and then to community engagement. I think just to add to what you were saying, I think sometimes people think it's a nice thing to do for those people, but they're not understanding it's an integral part for this community to continue to thrive. Absolutely integral. So it does impact everybody. It's not just a nice thing to do. On the community engagement, I have a very specific memory of a student who we did a mock community commission meeting, Collier County Commission meeting. Students served as commissioners, and there were several people in the audience serving us in certain groups. And after the meeting ended and the commissioners, air quote, made a vote, she left and she was in tears. And I said, "What's wrong?" And she said, this is all it takes to be a part of the decision making." She really said that. She was a incoming rising senior in high school. And I said, yes, these meetings are every 2 weeks. And what are they? Every second and
fourth Tuesday.
Fourth Tuesday during the day. But regardless, I don't think people understand that you as staff and the county commissioners are not operating in a bubble and would love to have more community engagement. And like you said, I think, at the meetings that I've been to, there have been a lot of people in red shirts opposing something very passionately, but there's so much more that people can do proactively, maybe to prevent getting to a place that you disagree with. So I know you've already touched on a few. Sounds like I've heard attend public meetings, county commission meetings. You can attend to learn, you can attend to speak, and I think, can you still attend virtually?
Yes, you can attend virtually, and also you can reach out to county staff. If the meetings aren't your thing, but you're really passionate about a subject, we can get you to the people on staff that are passionate about that too. So it could be animals, it could be plants, it could be conservation, it could be just about anything. It's amazing the depth of experience that we have on staff and how much they love to share that experience with the public.
Right. So if you're a retired professional and maybe golfing isn't your thing, you can find probably hundreds of opportunities to volunteer with Collier County government. I mean, who wouldn't want to go help domestic animal services?
Now maybe. We had a rough time at domestic animal services for a while, but we have turned the corner.
Yes, great leadership. So there's, you have a website, and the other thing that I was going to say is that maybe you're retired. There's lots of ways to engage in that way with, the hours that you have. But then as a working professional, certainly feel like it's all of our responsibilities to engage in all of these ways. But working professionals can engage through letter writing, setting up meetings with elected officials or others that are leading your various, not organizations, divisions, and attending things virtually.
Yeah, and even some of our advisory committees still have virtual attendance. So, and you can find a wealth of resources on our website, as you said. So if you wanted to go back and watch a meeting, there are archived videos. We have transcripts. There's a lot of ways, and we'll help you with any of that, by the way. So if somebody's looking for something, we'll help you find it.
People always pick up the phone, and I've experienced that myself firsthand. So, well, thank you for that. I will make sure to work with your office to get all of those links connected to this conversation that we're having today. And is there anything else that we might have missed?
Wow, that's
I always like to just make sure, because there's
probably.
there's probably a dozen things that we haven't talked about. But regardless, I just want to, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your transparency and offering up all these ways for our community to really engage. And that's what this is all about. My hope is that people aren't listening and saying, well, somebody else can do these things. My hope is that the people listening today will click on the links, look at the opportunities, learn what they didn't know, and engage, because we need it. Our community depends on it. So
definitely. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Amy. And for those listening today, I hope you'll find a way to engage, because community matters.